Hello, whoop. I'm out of practice. Hello. So, here we are. It's taken a little longer than I expected to get to this video, but here it is. We're going to take a look at the Fairlight today. I thought I'd cover this off in one video, but then I realised pretty fast there's so much to show here. There's so much to tell you about that show and tell. There's so much to show here, and we're probably going to have to do a few episodes. Hopefully it's not too boring. At the time of recording this video, the Fairlight's been in my studio for over a year and a half. Obviously, I've got another Fairlight and another, and let's not go any deeper on that one. So I thought today I'll focus on going around some of the interface, some of the way things work, and we're going to take a look at the wavetable synthesis. So without me rambling on, let's kick off, let's start looking at it. So when you fire up a Fairlight and you're running the CMI software, the first thing you get is the menu. Now, for those that maybe not as old as me, back in the days before graphical user interfaces became a thing, this was considered much more user-friendly than entering commands into the command line and doing that whole Unix type thing. So one of the amazing things about this is we've got graphics as well as text, both high quality. At any time you get lost in the menu, you can type help, and it'll bring up some wonderful help pages. Now, these help pages are so good. Every page has one, really easy to navigate, really concise, beautifully written. Now you can navigate through the help pages in a few different ways. You can use the light pen. Or you can use the keyboard. But that's not what we're going to do at the moment. Let's go page 1. So the first few pages are really important. We've got disk control on page 2. And what not many people know is there's a little clicker inside the keyboard. So when you hit down a key, the actual keyboard clicks. Page 2, page 2, page 2. This is where you can load, save, and do some basic file manipulations on the CMI. So I'm going to bring in ping pong. Once again, there's a few different ways we can load the sounds in, but I'm going to use the keyboard here. This is called tabbing around. So instead of using tab, because there is no tab, you actually just use the cursor keys. Cursor keys are in an up, down, left, right configuration, like you would expect these days. We can use the light pen though. You've got to think, this is before the mouse was really a known thing. As many of you probably know, the mouse was actually created in the 60s. Really hadn't been seen much outside of Xerox PARC. So, let's go ping pong and let's load it. Some of you may know it. But as I say, that's not what we're doing today. Let's jump to page 3. So page 3 is super useful. This is where I can define how I'm going to use the individual voices inside the CMI. So the architecture of the CMI is we've got 8 monophonic voices. We can combine those and use those in many different ways. By default, we've got 8 voices playing for a single sound. So if I So at the moment, we've got 8 voices of polyphony. Now I can just make that a single monophonic voice, and you can see that automatically adds another voice. Now there's 2 different modes I can choose from. So one is sample mode, and one is harmonic or wavetable mode. Also, if I just keep adding voices, you can see really easy to manipulate. So let's go back to 8 voices, 0, and because we're going to do synthesis, we're going to go into mode 1. All right, so that's page 3. You can also set up at the bottom here not only the pitch scale, so you can have micro tunings galore on here. You can set up which voices the master keyboard controls and which voices the sub keyboard controls. Unfortunately, the sub keyboard is super rare. I've almost purchased one twice. So the first one was very, very broken, and I didn't purchase it because it was in Germany. And then, strangely enough, another one came up for sale in Germany. Wonderful artist, Thomas Heckman, I'm sure some of you know him. He'd actually got the sub keyboard from Pete Namlook, and Pete Namlook had actually got that from Klaus Schulze. So unfortunately I didn't purchase it. I should have purchased it. It would have been amazing to have it sitting there, but you can't have everything, just most things. So I don't do the Peter Gabriel thing anymore, do I? So, page 4. Now this is where we can draw wavetables in, but I don't want to do that just yet. What we'll do first is we'll have a go at just creating standard waveforms. So if I jump to page 6, you can see the very start of the ping pong sound. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to jump to page 7, and I am moving around a bit at this point. Page 7 is like the control center. Page 7, we can control the envelopes, we control the filters, the start and stop times for the loops, the start and end time for the sample, the start time for the sample, pitch bend, vibrato, tremolo, all of those things are here. So you can hear that slowly fading in. We'll come back to the reason for that soon. But anyway, we're going to go to page 6. And we're going to draw our first waveform. So, as you can see, I've got some predefined waveforms down here. So if I want a triangle, I can do that. I can fill. Or I can choose sawtooth. Or I can draw my own. Bit crazy. Now, going back to page 7, and we're going to be jumping backwards and forwards between what we're doing and page 7 quite a bit. So what I'm going to do in page 7 is I'm going to set this launch control here to control the filter for me. So if I tab down to filter and I say use controller 1, instantly it's mapped controller 1, which is this slider. It's mapped the first slider straight to the filter. So if I play now, now, as I said, I can also do things here such as vibrato and things like that. So if I add, let's go 50%, Vibrato speed 50. Very slow. Let's go 120. Wow, I'm applying the wrong thing. Let's go 120 there for speed. Bit fast. Now, one of the really cool things about the keyboard here is it's got an add and subtract key. Now what that means is if I'm trying to dial this in really carefully, I can type the level of increment and decrement that I want to put on the vibrato speed. So I think I'll move in tens. So if I type 10, I can subtract. That's pretty good. And I can change the depth the same way. So I like that at 20. I can also delay how long it takes for this to come in. Add, add, add. Now, like I say, we've also got some envelopes here, so let's go 600. Whoops. 600. 600. 2000. We've got an attack here, an attack set to 0. You would think that that attack would affect the actual how the notes fade in, but they don't. What we need to do is go to page 4. So on page 4 we've got the two options we want to control. One is energy, so how loud or how much of something you're getting, and duration, how long it lasts for. So let's do energy first. And you can see everything's really slow here. So I want to go really fast with this. And you've probably already thought ahead. I can go fast, then slow it down. Now, because we're only doing a very, very short loop, it's not going to make much sense musically to do that yet. But what we can start doing now is adding harmonic complexity. So I'm going to go a 6th harmonic. I'm going to bring that in a bit later. Now, if I compute that, and I change my loop duration, so loop duration, I want the whole thing. So I've lost that initial wave. What I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate this using harmonics. So let's grab a 1st harmonic if I can. This is always a little fiddly. There we go. And what we can do is we can use the upper harmonics to make things a little interesting. Let's compute. So I would like that to go a lot slower and, you know, really hear that stepping. So let's go back to energy. And let's make that, whoops. As I said, I really want this to move slowly. At the moment, all of these segments are moving at the same speed. But how about if we go really slow to begin with and then speed up as we go? So we select duration and we do that. Let's continue to add some complexity to this. And you can get really lost in just drawing waves. So as promised, I also this episode want to answer some questions that people have been asking in the comments. So the first one here is from Richard Headley, and he wanted to know whether I was going to replace the safety glass on the tube. So as hopefully you can see, yes, the safety glass is back on there. The safety glass is not so much safety glass. So we've got a normal implosion band around the CRT. So it's very unlikely it's ever going to implode. The glass that's on the front is more for diffusing. When you don't have the diffuser, you can actually see the individual dots on the CRT being lit up. So it makes it a bit more readable and a little less fatiguing on the eyes over time. Gazar67 asks, I'd love to hear the difference in sound qualities between all the Fairlights and how easy or frustrating you find making music compared with DAWs or MPCs. That would make a really good video later, so maybe we'll do that. So the 2X is 8-bit, and of course you can only do really short samples on it. Each card only has 16K of memory, so we're talking really short samples. To the frustration of some of the people I've collaborated on music with, I tend to use the DAW mainly as a multi-track recorder. I am notorious for not even setting tempos or anything, and I just play in and then use it as a multi-track recorder. I'm really sorry to the people that then have to go back and try and add beats or anything. It's something I'm trying to get better at. With the CMI, as you would have seen in that little sequence I did, it's really on the grid. Actually, it's on the grid on the first instrument and then slightly off the grid as you move down each instrument below it. So it has its own quality. The limitations of the CMI here sort of drives its own sort of compositional sounds. I think that's enough for today. I'll come back soon and do another clip with sampling, and we'll look at other features such as drawing our own functions and applying those to the various parameters, drawing our own functions and applying that to the controls on the CMI. I think we'll do something different in the next clip, but we will come back to the CMIs very soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll chat to you next time.